leading ladies. So, any questions you may have? Just get one second.
Hello again.
Who will start?
You can.
Okay.
These compositions, these frames, do you have the visions in your head, or do you collaborate with the cinematographer when you're on set? Because the composition is so beautiful.
No, I don't have visions in my head. No. Yeah, it's something that somehow comes instinctively on some part, and then another part is being in the locations and figuring out what's best for each scene, and then trying to kind of destroy that also in a way in the scenes that seems appropriate, but it's very instinctive, and there's a lot of preparation before. I mean, sometimes storyboarding or shot lists and things like that, but then we kind of forget that, and when we go and start blocking the scene with the actors and everything, we reinvent the whole thing again.
Yes, please.
So I have two questions. One is, when in some of the frames there was like an out of focus of the parents or different people in that, but the substitutes were in focus. So I wanted to get your idea on whether that was a comment on the grief the parents had, that they were like so in full of grief that they were out of focus in the frame. So that was one. And then the second one was in terms of the theme of the movie itself, and the fact that the one lead character sort of became almost like a robot, and then kind of malfunctioned at the end. Was that kind of a comment on how people grieve and indulging grief, and how it can be bad on both levels in terms of people indulging grief?
I think you're putting too much on the grief thing, which is definitely a part of it. But the technical thing first. To me, it was mostly being much more concentrated on a specific element of the scene and seeing the story more through these people's perception. I mean, and mostly the nurses' perception, and trying to allow people, somehow get into the scene without laying everything out in front of them and being too literal about things, and just try and leave things to their mind as well, so that you're more engaged with what's happening and who are these people. And by shooting it, sometimes they also sometimes felt like ghosts behind them, and I kind of liked that. It just felt right with the whole feeling of the tone of the film. So it's more like that, and it's not so much commenting on something or wanting to say something very specific. So that basically goes for the rest of what you asked. I mean, yeah, because the main character basically is what you described. I mean, she's kind of set out to do one thing, and on the way she gets lost. So you call it malfunction. That's a nice way to put it. So, yeah.
Yes, please.
Two questions. First, where did you get this idea? And then to the actors, if they can tell me what they thought when they first read the script.
Okay. So the idea was came from conversations basically with Themis Philippou, the co-script writer. We were basically talking about things that we were interested in, and he mentioned something about this thing that he was thinking: if some people had lost people that they loved, what if they asked from other people to write them letters, like they were the person that died? And it was, an interesting thought about this, loss and what people do, and but it didn't really feel very cinematic as a story. People writing letters, or then we said making phone calls maybe also. So it progressed, and we say, okay, why, if they're making phone calls, why don't we have them be present and trying to impersonate those people? And then it became about something else, the film. It's not about really loss and grief and death, which obviously is in there, but mostly about, this human behavior and relationships and role playing, and how that is also part of our lives, and many other things that you can figure out yourselves.
So when I read the script, I thought it was brilliant and great, but also I was terrified, because I had to play the nurse, and I found it very difficult, and I didn't know what to do, and that's all.
Yeah, I enjoyed it because I find it very funny, so I was laughing all the time when I read it. And I was afraid, because I'm not a gymnast, and I was afraid to do the gymnast.
Wait. Okay, wait. All right, yes, okay, please. We don't have...
Hi, sir.
So look time, so...
Your films have titles that don't necessarily explain what the movie is about, and the films also reveal themselves very slowly. But do you have any real hope that audiences will get to them without knowing what the films are about, and actually come into an audience not having been given away a certain amount of what you are revealing very slowly to them?
I didn't get the question. There was something about subtitles at some point.
Sorry, no, the titles of your films
Okay.
don't explain what the movie is about, and you reveal what the films are about very slowly to the audience, but do you have any hope that people are actually getting into your audience without having been told what this film movie is about?
Yeah.
Way up in the top!
My question is, can you talk about the state of Greek cinema today and where you see it in the next few years?
Well, that's a difficult question. The state of Greek cinema hasn't changed that much over the last few years. I mean, the last few years there have been some younger filmmakers making films in Greece, but nothing really changed. It's just that they decided that they don't have much to expect from other people, from the government or private or any other way to fund their films. So they decided to really make low-budget films themselves. And there's this younger generation that's making their own films, so that's why there are some internationally shown around the world. But the truth is that there's no real film education in Greece. There's no proper film school. Financing is almost impossible. It's because of the structures of the laws, which are now changing, but they're changing at this point where, you know, there's this huge crisis, so that makes things even more difficult. And, you know, we don't really know so much about the future of Greece itself, not just about Greek cinema, so that's where I can go to.
Yeah, I wanted to say, I'm still trying to track down your first film. I've seen Dogtooth many times, and I think it's a masterpiece. But it's nice to see that you use the same two actresses again. And will you be using them in the future, you hope?
Well, yeah, it's one of them, really.
Oh, just one of them?
Yeah.
Oh, they both, I thought they played the sisters. No.
Yeah, but I have a certain taste. So, I mean, we hope we'll be working in the future. And Kineta is really hard to find. It played here.
The first film, you mean?
Yeah.
I live in the United States, and I can't find it anywhere. But I've been looking.
We'll get you one.
Yes.
I'm just wondering, both your films have had really memorable dance scenes, but everybody's a terrible dancer in them. So I'm just wondering, is it because is it actually because you're a bad dancer, or does he force you to dance like that in both films?
Well, thank you for insulting us.
No, I love the film. I love both films, absolutely.
You love the film, just not the dancing.
They're very memorable. It's just, they're weird dances.
Well, Ariane had to work for 3 months.
No.
So, yeah, I mean, they're naturals.
I think that music sequence in Dogtooth was funny and
It is.
with bad dancing.
Yes, please.
So I don't know if I'm stating the obvious or if I'm way off, but I felt like the film was referencing cinema itself, or the industry of cinema itself, how the people that are replacing the people that are dead or that the other people have lost is like an actress doing a role. And then there's the whole thing of the stars, like how you mentioned famous people in the movie, Hollywood actors. They're like the ALPS. You know, nobody can replace Morgan Freeman, but Morgan Freeman can play any character.